excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for coming. And so, what have you been doing since October 7th? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'll start with October 7th. After just being really shocked, I was like, I want to do something. And I had this idea. There was a movie a while back called, it was a satire called The Day Without a Mexican. And it made me think about what would the world look like, since everybody wants us dead right now. What would the world look like if it was a day without a Jew? And I had posted in a Facebook, large Jewish Facebook group about it, and you jumped on the idea. It morphed to be something a little bit more PC, rightfully so. And so I had this idea, and you came up with this image for a global Shiva, which was actually on. It should have been global Shloshim, which is 30 days, but people know Shiva, they don't necessarily know Shloshim. And so on November 7th, thanks to your beautiful imagery, I sort of took time off of social media, and since then have kind of been off of social media trying to protect my own mental health. But and tried to not to work that day, and really just acknowledge the pain and sorrow that at that point we were feeling for 30 days. Now it's been over 50 days since that happened, and just have really been wanting to participate in some sort of protest or movement or campaign. So a friend of mine had forwarded to me a campaign called Run for Their Lives, Bring Them Home Now, which I am an organizer for in Daly City, and have been trying to get that off the ground. It's a run walk to and it's happening right now all over the world. Like, there were 500 people that walked in Munich, 100 that walked in Hamburg. There's people in Japan and in New Zealand, all over the U.S. Many groups in California. Just this week, I participated in 3 in my area in San Francisco, in Daly City where I live, which is right south of San Francisco, and then in San Mateo, which is about a half hour from my house. And it's really for calling for the bringing home of the hostages. And we've been so blessed that so many are home, that have been brought home over the last week, but they're not all home, and we won't stop campaigning for their release, and until every one of them is home. So that's what I've been participating in since October 7th. And then in terms of who I am, I live in the Bay Area. I'm a mom of 2 girls, Avital and Rivka. Avital goes by Tali. And I am a religious refugee from Latvia. I came here with my family when I was 6. We escaped the former Soviet Union, a place also very well known for their propaganda and anti-Jewish propaganda. So all of our passports said that we were Jews, and although we were not
Wow.
allowed to practice our Judaism because, in communist thought, religion is the opium of the people. And so, came here to the U.S., moved to New York, then eventually moved to San Francisco, and I'm just, I'm a proud American. I've run for office a couple of times here in Daly City in 2016 and 2018. I didn't win. Maybe that's in my future one day. But
Yes.
so I'm always I'm trying to I'm on the board of a synagogue here in San Francisco, Shereth Israel, which is the oldest synagogue west of the Mississippi. It's a beautiful community that was established here right after the gold rush in 1850. We're going to be celebrating 175 years soon. A lot of history in the city. And then the day after the massacre, our synagogue hosted an all sort of Bay Area rally for Israel, and Nancy Pelosi was here, and the mayor of San Francisco was here, and the synagogue was completely packed with people, waving Israeli flags, and it was just it was really beautiful to see the community come together at a time of so much pain, but to also see the support of our leaders. We have a very strong sort of lobbying organization here called JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Council. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they were very vocal about getting Jews out of the Soviet Union, and out of the communist regime. And now they're very vocal about anti-Semitism and bringing the hostages home, and ensuring that our public schools, I won't say public and private, because many my daughter goes to private school and she's not being taught anti-Semitic rhetoric. But from what I see in our local public schools, a lot of public school teachers are, unfortunately, have a very biased perspective. So they are very active in that, and they helped organize this event as well, and have been very vocal. And the video we're going to see soon was actually shared by this organization, and so we can chat more about that. I'm not affiliated with them, but they do amazing work, and it's always incredible to see leaders in our community just really finding the right words and actions to support our people, support Israel, support the causes that we believe in. And so I'm really proud of the work that they've been doing since October 7th.
Well, you have been busy. Thank you for all that you've been doing. And it's a very interesting history that you have. And I'm glad that you and your family are in America able to practice your Judaism. It's very nice.
Yeah, we had the choice at the time to go to Israel or go to the US, and we ended up in the US. But so much of our family is in Israel, and I recently reconnected with my grandfather's first cousin who left Latvia in 1968, and found out that his cousin, who's probably, because Jews tended to marry their cousins at a certain point in time, is probably related to us, was Yaakov or Yankele Eshkoli, who helped sort of find Kiryat Shmona, which is a kibbutz near the Lebanese border, and that he was the mayor of Galilee, of the upper region of Galilee, from 1955 to 1971. So just learning that, like literally 2
Wow.
months ago, like reading articles about this person, I was like, I felt, I was already connected to Israel because I know that, my great grandfather's siblings went there instead of the U.S. The thing with being in the Soviet Union is that, and you see that with the kibbutzim, is that there were a lot of people that believed in the communist ideas, but didn't necessarily feel that the Bolsheviks and the Soviet government was able to actually make that happen. And so they went to Israel and created the kibbutzim, which is this, very utopian, idealistic communities, and so it was very difficult for some people to move to the U.S. because the U.S. is sort of polar opposite to that mentality. Like my grandfather ended up moving to Germany because he was a staunch communist, and so it was just I have this very strong, extra strong connection now to Israel, beyond the October 7th, but feeling like my family was somehow part of the fabric of building the country and making the country stronger. It just gives me even more pride.
As it should, as it should. And, the saying, we are one soul, it really is true. Like Israel as a whole, the Jewish people as a whole, we are one family. It's kind of funny that you said, maybe back in the day we accidentally married our cousins. That's kind of a funny thing, but also just the fact that we are so intertwined, we really are one people, one soul. We feel each other's feelings. We feel each other's pain and happiness. And even though I am an Israeli citizen, and even though you have family in Israel and your family has been historically a part of Israel for quite some time, it almost it does matter, but in a sense, like it doesn't matter because we would still feel, we would still have this feeling of Israel and of the Jewish people because we are all so intertwined and connected. We are really one soul. So,
I
but
definitely,
you have a
I agree
beautiful
with that.
story.
Thanks. Yeah, I love that saying. After October 7th, there was people saying like, "Oh, I don't know if I have family in Israel," and then it was like a meme. Sure, you do. There's 10 million, 10 million over here,
Yeah.
and it is
Yeah.
true. Is that we don't realize uh, one, we're all connected with our common belief, but we don't even realize how much common history and common DNA we have. Like my husband's from Ukraine and I'm from Latvia, and then we did 23 and realized we were distantly related. Like, and again, it's more because of just the common DNA, and we all came from Israel at one point of time, right? And then we moved into this diaspora, and so we are all connected, and it's unfortunate that so many people right now have, so many Jews even have forgotten that we're all one people and we're all connected.
Sadly, there is, I want to say a small majority. There's a percentage of Jews who are a little lost right now, but hopefully they'll see this podcast or any other podcast and they'll start hearing some deeper conversations, and maybe they'll wake up and come back to reality and rejoin the tribe. I'm going to link a article I found recently after the video to the description about our DNA. And it actually says that over the last 1,000 years, Ashkenazi Jews, which neither one of us are, or maybe are you an Ashkenazi?
I I am I am like 99.9% Ashkenazi, and my
Okay,
husband's 100. But again, it's a little bit of a lazy science, because part of the reason that is because there's really nothing else in that area. And so this, when you look at the DNA and you sort of marry it together, the commonality is like, all right, well, these people have to be Ashkenazi, even though, as somebody who left the Soviet Union, the last thing I want someone to tell me is that I'm ethnically Ashkenazi, right? Like
right.
this was a thing that was punished in the Soviet Union. So the fact that 23andMe and all these, I mean, it is what it is. I'm also proud, right? Like I'm a
Yeah.
proud Jewish woman, so I don't
Well,
mind it. But it
this
is really interesting.
this DNA testing and article proved that over the last 1,000 years, the Ashkenazi descendants are all from 4 women.
Poor women.
Did you
Yeah.
see that already? Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
so
about?
yeah, so it's that's the thing, is that once, for Ashkenazis, if you go back 7 or 8 generations, like everybody is related, and you can, on the DNA side for men too, it's really interesting because there's something called a haplogroup, and it's through the male line. And it's also, there's haplogroups on the female line too. But like, if you are in the same haplogroup as a male, like you literally have a common ancestor. Like, for a fact you're all related. And same thing for women. If you're in the same haplogroup, you all share a common female ancestor. And so it's the DNA is super interesting, and I have a long story of how the DNA got me into building my family tree and learning all of this. I mean, this is how I landed on these cousins in Israel, and so I've been really fascinated with the genetic testing and sort of using that to find connection and family, and also doing mitzvah, like by creating a family tree and posting photos and remembering my ancestors and all of the people that came before me. It's like my version of Pokemon. I,
Yes,
I,
collect them
I
all.
profiles of relatives in my family tree, and it's really my kids' family tree because it's my husband and my side. But yeah, it's the whole DNA thing is so fascinating, and yet also kind of dangerous. Like our for 23andMe, it was recently targeted,
Mm-hmm.
and they stole data from people that had any bit of Ashkenazi um, uh, percentage. But it also makes me think about, for us as Jews coming from Israel, and those who are Palestinian that feel native to that land, like how much common DNA we all probably have and don't realize, and we're fighting. All of this fighting is like, in my mind, a moot point because we're all related in one way or another. Like, yes, as Jews we're one soul, but as people who are native to that area, we're also all one soul. um and so it's, I think all of that has gotten lost, through a lot of fundamentalism, and it's
There,
not helping us.
yeah, I know, I do agree. There's actually a great guy to follow on Instagram if you haven't followed him yet, or anybody watching. His name is Rudy Rochman, and he does a lot of work speaking with Arabs, and he talks a lot about how we're really cousins with the Arabs or the Palestinians, and how even a lot of them, their lineage was Jewish at one point, and they ended up, converting or what have you. So he's a very well educated man. He studied in Israel at IDC, and he's doing really great work with his interviews and with his speaking. He's also been like on a lot of news channels. And he's also serving in Miloim right now. He's in the reserve duty, and he's serving in the IDF right now. But to your point, yes, there is a lot of relation, a lot of lineage there, and also because it's such a small area as
Yeah.
well too, so but he's doing great work. If anybody is interested in that and wants to dive deeper, you can follow him on Instagram. I believe it's just Rudy Rochman. But again, I'll add that to the description as well. I'll take a couple notes of what I'm going to add to this for everybody. Um, so, Gabby, should we show everyone this video that you sent me?
Yeah, so I sent Hope this video. This is from the Oakland City Council meeting, which happened the day before yesterday. There was another Bay Area meeting that happened yesterday in Berkeley. They did not. In the Oakland City Council meeting, they had a ceasefire statement on their agenda. So they were voting on this. It's not an amendment. The word is escaping me right now. Resolution. So they had a resolution as part of their agenda at the Oakland City Council meeting to vote for a ceasefire. That language, didn't include anything about Hamas. I haven't read it personally, so I'm not going to claim to know what the exact words were, but I do know that, part of the issue was that it did not discuss anything about Hamas. And I know that JCRC, the organization that I messaged before, had like a candlelight vigil prior to the meeting, and then they were not far away from where the meeting was going to be held. They were harassed while they were, peacefully gathering, and it just, for lack of a better word, was a complete shit show. And Oakland, a lot of people might not necessarily know about, but other things that are in the news are, a whole entire street of businesses is looted, and generally has historically been kind of a high crime area, or high crime city. That they have a lot of local concerns, but they, decided that what was most important to discuss on this particular day was a ceasefire in Israel. So that's sort of what this snippet is from. And of course, by on opening up the conversation, that led to a lot of I don't know what words to even use, flowery language to be light without, I don't want to spoil. We can talk about what it really is after we watch the video. But
we will talk about it. Let's play it. I just want to tell the audience that I had a little internal pushback within myself with whether or not I actually wanted to show this footage. Everything they are saying is a lie. I don't like to push propaganda or lies on this show, but for educational purposes, we are going to show you what is happening in Oakland. And thank you, Gabby, for sending it to me. And let's watch it.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
I support the right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance.
As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
The notion that this was a massacre of Jews is a fabricated narrative. Many of those killed on October 7th,
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
including children, were killed by the IDF. An amendment condemning Hamas is bald propaganda meant to...
Thank you. Your time is up.
To hear them complain about Hamas violence is like listening to a wife beater complain when his wife finally stands up and fights back.
Question. Did anyone else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
There's been a lot of atrocity propaganda ranging from claims of beheaded babies to mass rape.
Hamas is not a terrorist organization just because the U.S. and Israel deems it so. Hamas is a resistance organization that is fighting for the liberation of Palestinian people and their land.
Yeah,
A
I think that's the statement from the JCRC, who was really trying to prevent them voting on this altogether, I think, or at least adding in language around condemning Hamas if they were going to vote on it. But they voted on it. The ceasefire resolution passed. Maybe I'll try to find the actual resolution and send it to you so you can link it in the description if it makes sense too. But yeah, I mean, I said flowery language, but in reality, I mean, it's gross. What was being said was I was just shocked.
So the thing is like this isn't just special for Oakland. You know, it's great that we have this footage and that we were able to show it and like see what these people are saying and thinking and believe. But ultimately, this is the consensus of a ton of people that are at these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas rallies. They do not believe what they see. Hamas GoPro'd this themselves. Hamas published this all over Telegram, all over Facebook, all over social medias. They told the world that they did this. And it really makes me sick to my stomach that these people are so deranged and delusional to then I don't even know who started this lie that now they're just all believing. But Hamas showed their true colors. Hamas showed the truth and how these people can believe that the IDF did this to themselves is outrageous. The fact that they think Hamas are resistance fighters is also outrageous because proof positive. If Hamas was resistance fighters, they would not be hiding in tunnels. They would be fighting the IDF. They would actually be warriors. And instead, they are taking innocent children, babies, mothers as hostages, and they're using their own people as human shields. They aren't trying to liberate the people of Gaza because they are stealing all of the money that has been given to Gaza. If they wanted to liberate Gaza, they would be using the money that the entire world has donated instead of their top two head guys of Hamas living it up in Qatar in private jets. And I know I say this all the time, but they're worth $11 billion. Billion. Yeah. So that's my response to that video.
I mean, I think, you know, the thing that watching that, you know, my first thought is like, there's a massive programming. Again, like I came from the Soviet Union, so, you know, I don't know it personally because I left there when I was so young, but I talk to my family all the time around their experience with propaganda and just the surveillance and the general fear. And I lost my grandfather as part of that. He had you know, what we would call in the U.S. a side hustle, where he was an architect, and because everybody there worked for the government, you sort of had, you know, we joke in the U.S. like a dance card, but they had like a work card, like it was like a time card, and you know, he was forging it in some way so that he can do outside work and help, you know, design houses for people or do, you know, some other things. I don't necessarily know the details. You know, in the U.S., a side hustle is something that we're proud of. Like, you know, I'm hustling. I'm able to earn incremental income, like, you know, like you're doing with your podcast. Like that's something people take pride in. But in the Soviet Union, that was punishable, and he had. Either somebody had told on him, but he ended up getting arrested and was so afraid because of all of this propaganda that he had grown up with. And part of it was that his mother and his brother was in jail during so they left during the Holocaust. They went south to like a central, like the border of Central Asia, this town in Russia called Saratov, and they were there for a long time. And again, they were trying to hustle, make money there. And my grandmother was making butter out of they were transporting barrels of cream, the barrels that were left over. That was like their job. And then she was using sort of the leftover cream in the barrels to make butter and sell it. And again, somebody told on them. And my great uncle took the fall, even though she was doing it. And he was in jail for really long, for like 8 or 9 years while they were there. So my grandfather had all this trauma from his uncle, his, you know, older brother being in jail and sort of taking on the responsibility, so that he had sort of like survivor's guilt in a way, as well as trauma. And when he got arrested for the side hustle, he had assumed that he was going to, you know, either see a firing squad or spend the rest of his life in jail. And he ended up killing himself to avoid that. And I was 6 months old when that happened. So, and my mom was 21. And it's, when I think about just propaganda and how it brainwashes you to make irrational decisions, and then I think about like, how do you deprogram that? Like, you watch these are adults. These aren't, you know, irrational teenagers. Like, you know, we were, you know, there was an incident in Queens High School where a Jewish woman had updated her profile picture like weeks ago with the Israeli flag, and, you know, there was a riot. And then I listened to the press conference, and it was like the president of the student body class was like, these kids didn't know what they were doing. They were, you know, they saw it as an opportunity just to run amok. Somebody was running amok, so everybody started running amok. Okay, you can use that excuse with teenagers, but like in this video, these are adults. I mean, like I'm saying, it's not the right excuse, right? But like, I get it. You know, teenagers, your brain isn't formed until you're 25. Like, you know, you are more prone to make irrational decisions. But these are adults. These are adults. One, the things that they're saying are not factual, but they believe them to be factual, right? Like, to your point, Hamas recorded themselves doing these things and proud, like when I was just listening to a podcast with Sam Harris, and he was talking about the guy that called his mom on WhatsApp, like, "Mom, I killed 2 Jews. I killed 2 Jews with my bare hands." Like, and I mean, like, we know this to be true. It's not propaganda. What's propaganda is not believing what people tell you. No, you're telling me that they mass raped. I mean, no way. These people are angels. Like, literally the facts. And it's not I mean, it's just it doesn't it just I don't mean to be facetious about it, but it literally makes no sense to me. And I'm so worried and scared about, like, how do you deprogram a generation of people that are learning, that are no longer learning critical thinking in schools, obviously, but then, like, because they didn't learn it, don't know how to critically think as adults, are so paranoid about all news sources and all government entities that they think everybody is against them, everybody is evil. I mean, that's like a collective, like, paranoid schizophrenia that is taking on a whole generation, where it's like everyone thinks that, I'm not saying, I mean, like, governments are not perfect, people are not perfect, right? But, like, there isn't this, like, mass conspiracy in the US government to, like, trick people. Like, especially in this case, there's literally videos. It's not like it's the US government saying anything. Like, the perpetrators of these crimes recorded themselves and are telling you, "Look what I did. Look, Mom, aren't you excited for me? I killed 10 Jews with my own hands." Like,
yeah. They were proud. They were proud,
and
and they pushed it, and they were excited. They were excited, and they shared it with the world. And for some reason, most of the world, it seems like, honestly, it's really shocking. It seems like 50% of the world just doesn't believe it. Like, hetzi, half and half. I think it's split. And part of that could just be that a lot of them are jihadi themselves, and so they're pushing the jihadi propaganda. But ultimately, what this is global jihad, global Islamic indoctrination and domination. The whole idea of them giving all of this money to the college institutions, is so that they have picked these teachers now. They have picked these educators. They are choosing what these students are learning, and it is rotting our system from the inside. And we saw it on the eve of Veterans Day too. I mean, we continue to see it. It's like every day there is something that happens. There's some sort of anti-Semitism. There's some sort of protest act. There's something. There is always something everywhere. New York, DC, Paris, London, Canada. The Jewish schools in Canada keep getting vandalized and bomb threats. I'm really scared for America as a whole, and especially for Israel and the Jewish people. That's part of why I started this podcast, because Israel and the Israeli people and Jewish people, we started too late. We should have been doing this a long time ago, explaining who we are, where we came from, telling our stories, just like you just did. Your story is very special. And trying to show people the faces of who the Jews are and what the stories really are. Because at the moment, they don't see us, and they make up lies about us. And this brings me to the headline of this podcast was "Defamation is Destroying Jewish Lives." And it is true. It is. We are seeing it every day. I have started a special WhatsApp group if anybody wants to join. I don't know how to do it, but I want to do something about this. If anybody has any Jewish lawyer friends, send them my way. Even if you're not a lawyer and you want to help on this sort of special social justice project, please contact me. It's HATIKVAH News on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere, HATIKVAH News. And I'll add you to this WhatsApp group. We have to start physically doing something. I started the podcast channel because I thought, well, if we get our faces out there, if we get our voices out there, if we get our stories out there, maybe that'll help. And maybe it will. And I still want to continue doing this. And I love just talking with people and hearing everyone's story. But at the same time, we have to stand up and act. We have to do something because this is getting really bad. It's getting really bad.
Yeah, there are a number of great organizations that are really working to fight back. Like the Brandeis Center just filed a lawsuit against Berkeley University, Cal Berkeley, so UC Berkeley here, right outside of Oakland, yesterday. I think it was a Title IX lawsuit. And for anyone that's interested, it's public, so I think you can look it up. But there are just so many claims, people not being able to, like, if you're Jewish and you wanted to participate in something, you needed to have taken a Palestine 101 class. Like to participate in law groups, like just you read this stuff and you're like, this can't be real. Like it just can't be real. But just really active, really active, just unnecessary indoctrination. Like, and people, Jewish professors and Jewish students, just not being able to be openly, show their identity openly because for fear of not being included in things, being being thrown out of certain clubs or the ability to participate in things at the university. It's just, it's been going on for a long time. Like I graduated in 2000, and while I didn't go to Berkeley, I have a lot of friends that did, and they talked even back then about sort of the anti-Semitism that they would feel on campus. And, it was definitely more undercover now. And now everybody, it's like a free for all. Like somebody that I had gone to high school with had shared something about Sean King on his social media. And I just reached out to him and was like, hey, like, here's some sources of education. This person that you're sharing about, and this particular clip is being taken out of context, and you're sort of spreading misinformation. And he was willing to engage with me. And then after some back and forth was like, I really don't understand what you're so upset about. Like, Jews rule the world. You're the luckiest minority. And he was like full on, like totally serious. Like he did not think there was anything wrong with this trope that he was repeating to me. And when I said, I was like, all right, dude, this is like where the conversation ends. He was like, oh, I thought things were just getting real. Like we were now having this deep conversation that he informed me that he knew we were in charge. And like, again, I am a refugee. Like I came here, I have worked my ass off for what I have. And as has my husband. I've personally, it's like, hey, if we ruled the world, we would not be sitting here right now terrified about, the impact of anti-Semitism on our careers, on our kids' lives, on the things that they're learning in school. Like, yeah, if we ruled the world, like, we're not sadomasochists. Trust me, we would have figured this shit out, and it's insane to me, just, and then I researched this a little bit more. Well, I didn't. I read the book, Noah Tishby's book about Israel, which, if anybody, it's my Facebook profile picture right now, because I think everybody needs to read that book. It's just such an incredible book. And it's very, like, beyond being well written, it's also very even-handed. Like, this isn't a book of propaganda or trying to, shove something down your throat. It's a very honest look about the history of the country through a number of angles. Noah Tishby is an Israeli actress. She's also an anti-Semitism activist. But she also has a very rich, sort of diverse genealogical background. Like, I think her mom was born in Ghana because her father was stationed there. I mean, she just has this beautiful rich history. And she educated me on sort of this nonsense and where it came from. And it was Henry Ford, I believe, that had sort of come up with this. Maybe no, he had. It was the Russian, or like the Russian government that had come up with this sort of nonsense before the pogroms around Jews running the world, and then Henry Ford sort of like took it on in the U.S. My memory might not serve me correctly, so if I don't remember that correctly, just read the book yourself and learn about it, because it is a great book. And then for someone like me, because this whole Jews run the world thing was a little new, like I thought it was like a big joke, but it's like people really.
People really think it. People believe it, and they also believe we run the media, and it's just freaking nonsense, because if we ran the media, it would be looking a lot different.
A lot different. So, and that was something, there was another meeting, what we saw was Oakland. Berkeley had another meeting yesterday that I listened to for a little while, and they did not have a ceasefire agenda item. But people still called in and tried to finagle away, because they wanted people to keep to the items that were on the agenda. So they weren't allowing people to talk about a ceasefire. So anytime somebody they would end the call. But some people still got on, and it was like, the Holocaust didn't happen, but it should have. Something like Hail Hitler, like all sorts of things where part of it is Zoom bombing and pranking, but like a lot of the people that were on the call that weren't just randomly getting on and shouting these sort of just disgusting things, like really truly believed in what they were saying around just a complete misunderstanding of what's going on, right? Like there was a ceasefire on October 6th. It was broken. There was no occupation in Gaza on October 7th. Like Hamas.
No, we withdrew from Gaza in 2005, and Hamas had a fight with Fatah in 2007 to brutally take over. And ever since then, the people of Gaza have been living in slums pretty much, because all of the world donations and UNRWA, everything is being corrupted and taken by Hamas and its leaders. There's also a problem with UNRWA and the education systems. What they're teaching these kids is child abuse. It's disgusting. Their little terrorist summer camps are also child abuse and disgusting. And then people wonder why there's teenagers and women in Israeli prison system. And that's because they use the children and women as terrorists. And people need to wake up and start realizing the truth and just do some studying, open a book, learn about world history, open Google for God's sake. And just look at what they're showing you. They propagandize themselves. They show all of their summer terror camps. They show all of their cartoons. They show exactly what these kids are learning. And the kids are then repeating it. If anybody hasn't searched through my Instagram yet, it is all on there. I am showing it all. And if people would just see. The thing is, it's like, yes, and I say this all the time, but haven't said it on this episode yet. Yes, let's free Palestine, let's free Gaza from Hamas and from the PA and from UNRWA and from these governments and nonprofit agencies that are not serving the people. Yeah. The people deserve to be people, but they are being brainwashed and programmed, as you mentioned that word, great word. And so it brings us, where does it bring us? It brings us here. It brings us here. But what shocked me on October 7th was the world silence. And then on October 8th, the world excitement for Hamas. That is what shocked me. Because how could you not condone what Hamas has done?
Yeah. How? I mean, and I'll tell you, like, a lot of it has to, I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist. Like, sometimes nowadays I talk and I'm like, oh my God, I sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist. But like, this stuff is true. Like, I talked to a father who is on the board of our cemetery that's associated with our synagogue. He works for a Jewish organization, and he was telling me how he didn't realize how indoctrinated his 16-year-old son was, who goes to San Francisco public schools, until he realized that as he was having conversations with the son, the boy could not condemn Hamas's actions as terrorist attacks. And he was just like, what? Like, and like that they had to have multiple conversations. And the last time we talked, he was like, I think he's coming around. I mean, there's no coming around here. Like, one, it happened. They showed you on camera. These women were raped. I just watched something with Biana Goldriga where she had interviewed someone from UN Women, and she was like, why can you not condemn it? And the woman went on some like long diatribe about needing to research and, benefit of the doubt, something about due process. And like, there's no need for due process. These are not deep fakes. We know that these are videos of real events and things that happen. Like, what is, this movement right now, Me Too, unless you're a Jew, another something to look into. They have a petition going around. Like, yes, like, why do Jewish women need to walk around being like, oh, if something violent happens to me, the whole entire world's gonna condone it? Based on what? What did I do that makes me personally, right? I'm not Israeli. I mean, I know you're Israeli, right? And like, yeah, what we have in common is the fact that we're both Jewish women. But like, I'm sorry, but like right now as a Jewish woman, I feel like if something violent happens to me, no one is going to stand up, and people are going to be like, oh, you obviously did something to deserve it because you were born Jewish. Like, and it's so shocking to me that we know that all of these atrocities happened, and that people were just like sort of waiting, like, to just go out on the street. And here in San Francisco, that they spray painted "Kill the Jews." We're not talking about Israel. The attack happened on Israeli soil. We're talking about all Jews, right? And something people don't realize is that not all Israelis are Jews, and not all Jews are Israeli, right? There's over 20% of the population, right? Maybe even 30% of the population that is not Jewish, between Arabs and Muslims and Christians and Druze that live in Israel. And all of the majority of Israelis are condemning this, and they all feel shock and absolute betrayal over this happening, regardless of what.
So just to fact check that really quick, 21% of Israelis are Arab, 4% are categorized as others, meaning they do not have a religious denomination. So that leaves 75% of Israel is Jewish, but that includes Mizrahi Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, and Russian Jews, and African Jews, and all sorts of people who have fled persecution all over the world. And 30% of the Jewish public in Israel is born in Israel. So
yeah, and if you look, like, I've watched some of these, Moshe, another name drop, someone I don't know, but that is a news source that I listen to, Mo News, or he's on Instagram, and I subscribe to his premium account and get his newsletter. They did a little segment in the march in Washington, D.C., I believe. Maybe it was in New York. I think maybe New York, where they were interviewing people that were in a pro-Palestinian march. And the things that these people were saying, like, one of them was even Jewish, and he was like, there should be no white people in Israel. And I'm just like, what? Like, I mean, it's just,
well, this comes too from
like, just,
and this comes too from like what we've been seeing over the last 10 years of like every white person is bad.
Yeah. And this whole notion of settler colonialism, which is again this sort of made up concept. Someone shared this beautiful picture of it was an Ecuadorian Jew, I believe, that was in the march in DC, that wrote that the most successful indigenous anyway, indigenous project to come back to your land is Israel, right? Like we're all
Yes.
part of it. We're all part of the diaspora. All of our people, came from this land, and we had the opportunity to come back after being unsafe so many corners of the world, whether it be, the Muslim world, Spain, Soviet Union, everywhere. Like we have this home, and that home has been there. If you read the Old Testament of the Bible, or if you read the Torah, it has been there for 3,000 years. Like
and all these people who
like,
these people who are about to celebrate Jesus. Christmas is coming. All these people that are about to celebrate Jesus, they better not be at any pro-Palestinian from the river to the sea marches. Is all I have to say.
Yeah, someone just said in an anti-Semitism group that I'm in is that these people don't believe that Israel that Jews are indigenous to Israel, and yet they celebrate a Jewish man who lived there 2023 years ago. Like the proof is there. This isn't propaganda. Everybody knows Jesus was a Jew. Like he, AC and BC is before Christ, and so if we assume year 0 was the year that this Jewish man was born, we know for a fact that Jews lived in this region for at least 2023 years, just based on that, not to mention the Old Testament and all sort of archaeological records. So it just comes back to the whole point of this podcast around how dangerous it is, these notions, and this indoctrination, and this step away from the truth, and what that happens to a society, right? And you see that in Russia right now, in the war with Ukraine, where people being interviewed on the street like do not actually understand what's going on there, because the government keeps information from them, and the things that they're saying, when you're looking at it from many miles away, you're like, oh my God, like, do you not read the news? And no, they don't. They don't read the news because the government keeps it from them. We have tools and resources in the United States, and either we're not being allowed to use them because teachers are teaching bias information from elementary school onto college campuses. We see that, or they're just choosing to be ignorant and following some sort of sexy thing. And right now it seems
it's trendy
to be it's trendy to be an anti-Semite, like, and it's
insane.
It's insane.
It's insane. Well, Gabby, thank you so much for joining us and talking with us about defamation and libel and your story. And you gave some very, very interesting things about the JCRC and the Brandeis Center, that Title IX lawsuit. I'm going to link a lot of stuff in this video for people in that Palestine 101 class. That's super weird and interesting. I'm going to find some information on all of this, and I'm going to link it in the video for everybody so they can go do some research of their own, because education. And
I'm hoping that's our savior, but we gotta change. We have to make education less biased right now for our own sake. So I really encourage everyone out there to, if you have kids in school, find out what they're learning in their ethnic studies classes or other classes. Like, educate yourself. Don't be surprised because you're not talking to your kids, whatever age, middle school, high school, even elementary school. Like, don't be surprised 10, 15 years from now because you didn't actually look into what your kids are learning in school, and empower your children to speak up. My daughter had an incident in her school, and she spoke up, and they changed their curriculum right away because she goes to private school. So really proud of but we don't in public schools, it's a lot harder to do that, but people just need to educate themselves and speak up, and go to school board meetings, and go to city council meetings, and speak up. Don't let these people speak for us. They do not they don't define us. We're strong people. You know, they've tried to kill us for many years, and we will continue standing strong. You know, we're going to celebrate the Maccabees in a week.
Yes.
A week from tomorrow.
Yes.
So.
And we are a resilient people. So
100%.
we will survive. We will keep going. But in the meantime, let's try to calm some of this down and additionally save some lives. All of this defamation and libel is leading to hate crimes, and it's getting worse. And at the same time, Israel has the right to exist. And free Palestine from Hamas, free Palestine from the PA, free Palestine from the education system. They have the right to self-determine as well. We don't want Gaza. We gave it to them in 2005. It could be Singapore. It could be Hong Kong. But they are run by a dictatorship, literally. So, and bring home our hostages.
100%.
And it looks like we're still
ways
waiting.
for long-lasting peace. So, you know, and I just praying for my family in Israel, praying for your family in Israel, and you know, may everyone be safe, and especially if you know the when the truce ends and everything will restart again. Just praying for all of our families and praying for Israel.
Yes, me too. Baruch Hashem. And thank you so much. Thank you, Gabby. And to everyone else, thank you for watching.